the answer hands down is Silver Age, right? That the Silver Age has created everything that we are living in now. My answer is gonna be the development of Image Comics. And I think like indie comics existed before Image Comics did, right? Like you can point to a handful of small batch publishers, but their problem, with the exception of like Fantagraphics, is that they tried to publish on a large scale really fast and became financially insolvent. Like Atlas Comics, right? Published like 4 titles, max of 3 issues a piece, and they folded. Or like Star Comics did some stuff and Marvel was like, oh, you're doing good shit. He stole it. I think the development of indie comics is what opened the door for the explosion of indie comics on a more sustainable scale than what people tried to do in the past. That you're seeing new publishers to this day enter the market left and right, and they're doing it by publishing 1, maybe 2 books a month, and then slowly growing, right? And I think Scout Comics is a good model of that, where they started slow, and then, you know, they're putting out 8 to 10 books a month because they've got 2 imprints now. I'm a big homer for Mad Cave Studios, and they did the same thing, where they dedicated themselves to creating 6-issue arcs, and now they're having series that are expanding in multiple directions, and some of them are going to become like digital only in the same way that Marvel and DC has done, which I think is brilliant because it's a way to minimize, you know, printing and distribution costs, that you can put it out digitally and then put it, you know, in a physical form on the back end, and fools like me will buy it. Right. So I think with the birth of Image Comics, you know, and it's now 30 years ago since those Image books are coming out this year, celebrating their 30th anniversary, that granted, they start the game with a stacked deck of people who left Marvel and DC to create that imprint. But I think once they started and kind of showed themselves as being a market force, telling stories that big publishers told them no, they couldn't write, I think that's why we are living in a, you know, the comic book market is oversaturated to a massive degree, but it's because they, like the entire, you know, fiction market, they don't care about trying to sell a book to every single person. They know who their niche audience is going to be, and they're going to produce books for that niche audience, right? So I know if I want to find some really good horror comics, that I can look at Vault, I can look at Source Point Press, and I can look at Scout's Black Caravan imprint, right? If I want my sexy books, I can buy my Vampirella and Lady Death and Nyx from Dynamite. That, you know, Image is now in the same position as Marvel and DC, where they've got the financial resources to produce all kinds of books all over the place. And you're starting to see other indie publishers take that leap. Like when Boom Studios, who does a bunch of horror books, when they put out the book Maw, that book, as that was one of the ones that I knew I would read it. Jelly and J1 picked that book up at my recommendation, and they were both like, yeah, I didn't think I would like this book from the solicit, but damn, it's good. It's a horror book that is also a manifesto about like sexual assault, the way women are demonized. Like, it's a modern feminist masterpiece. And we all looked at it and we were like, why do you think Boom put out a book like this when, you know, they've been living in the land of like Power Rangers has been their moneymaker, or some of those other things. So it's been nice that you're seeing more voices in the marketplace now take risks, be successful, and tell those stories because they know that they're not trying to get everybody who wants to buy every Spider-Man book. They're getting somebody who wants to read a 6-issue mini and then move on to the next one. So I think while the correct answer is the Silver Age, I think the true answer to me is probably early 90s in the development of Image, because it legitimizes what people before them tried to do, but without the money and the pre-established names. Because if Todd McFarlane or, a handful of other people don't have their names on those first Image books, they probably go the age of Atlas and Star of dissolving. So while they were playing a game, with some extra power-ups when they started, I definitely think it's been the last 30 years post-Image where we're seeing more voices and we're not seeing the same story told over and over again. And I think that that's a good thing. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing on Marvel and DC, but those have those established names. I know, I'm going to love a Spider-Man book unless Nick Spencer is writing it because he destroyed Spider-Man for me, right? I know I can swing a dead cat and get caught up on a Batman arc at any point in time, right? I know what I'm getting into for those, but I know that those titles are not going to scratch an itch of something different for me in a same way that a book like Safe Sex or What You Promised Me Darkness or Maw or, Nottingham do. That I just like the diversity of being able to find a book literally for anybody that's coming out. And I think it makes it easier to get people into the hobby now where they're like, I don't know what's been going on in Spider-Man for the last 10 years. Shit, neither do I, and I still read it. But, anytime somebody looks at me and they're like, I think I want to get into comics, do you have any recommendations? Instead of shooting from the hip and going, here are all of my favorite series, my first question back to them is, well, when you read fiction, what's your favorite book? What's your favorite author? Why do you like that? Okay, here are my recommendations based off of that I can go like school librarian on it and help push an audience towards a book that I fit them, because we all have our different passions and pleasures in what we read. And I don't think we would have that, unless something successful like Image pops up and shows that the market can be more competitive than Marvel versus DC.
Right. No, and that's a great answer.